Okay. Hey guys, welcome to Book Club Nightly with Machiavelli. We're doing things a little bit differently tonight. I am also on live on TikTok, so I'm going to be responding to the chat as well as I'm speaking. We are about to bust down. I got like 7 or 8 chapters. Hopefully I can get through all of them. I'm going to give myself an hour. I could talk about this shit all day, but I'm not going to keep y'all that long. This book is getting worn out because wherever I go, it goes with me. Y'all know I've been flying all around. I've been on that cruise. I've just been all over the place. So I kind of want to hold stand it up right here for the live. Maybe I won't, but for those who know, we are doing the Matriarch, Miss Tina Knowles. If you are keeping up on the YouTube, that's gonna fall. Hold on. Okay. I think it's going to stay up. If you are keeping up on the YouTube, we left off on chapter 14. So we're going to keep it going and hit chapter 15, which is called Bloodline. Oh shit, I did not write the year that Bloodline takes place. She has the year at each one. Oh, and also it's important to note that Bloodline is the beginning of Act 2, which is called A Mother. We ended off at chapter 14 because her mother, Miss Tina's mother, Agnes, had just died, and she found out that she was pregnant with Beyoncé. So Bloodline is taking place in August of 1981. As we all know, Beyoncé born September of 1981, so she just about to pop. When am I reading Quan Mills? After we finish the Matriarch. We gotta get through this, child. So she's pregnant with Beyoncé, and her and Matthew are really into being young at this point. I think they got married in 1970 something. They met in 1976 or 77, I believe. And they might have got married in 1978. So they have been messing with each other for a few, like 4 or 5 years before Beyoncé was even born. And I think that at the point in which she was coming up on delivery, she just kind of realized that, yeah, this shit is getting wrapped up. We about to be parents. And so she talks about how her and Matthew wanted to stay young. And she was pregnant exactly, SJ. She was pregnant and they was still going to the club in Houston, which you got to understand, that is the most Houston shit a bitch could do. And the fact that bitches in Houston was still acting like that in 1981 had me screaming, because you are bound on a Sunday fun day to see a pregnant lady in the club in Houston. Like, that is very regular. Like, that is not no crazy shit. And the way Miss Tina was describing how she was still stepping, she was still dressing up. She talking about she didn't even buy no maternity clothes. She was still buying designer clothes and just sizing up because she was still, she's a fashion girly. That had me weak. But what stopped them from going out as often is Miss Tina ends up passing out because she about 8 months pregnant. She about a month away from delivery. Her ass ended up passing out at the damn club, and that was the end of that. And she talks about how her sister laughed at her like, and that's what you get because your ass shouldn't have been up at the club with your big pregnant ass. So the thing about Matthew that we know and that you're gonna see if you've been reading this book, if you've watched my book club videos, is that Miss Tina is very candid about this being somewhat of a complex relationship. She's very transparent about how she is with him, how she loves him. She tells us that fidelity was an issue from day one. She doesn't say this, and it's probably because she doesn't know, but she probably does now because, hindsight 2020. The first year of their relationship, they were long distance, right? So he probably was honestly never faithful at any point in time. But within the first year of their marriage, he was cheating, and fidelity was becoming an issue that she was seeing. This is gonna be like a long-term issue with him. He's not gonna keep his dick in his pants. But she stayed because he was always so protective of her. And if you've read the beginning chapters where Act 1, where she talks about a daughter, that's something that she didn't get from her parents. She never felt quite protected by her mom. And Matthew was fiercely protective of her, also fiercely protective of Beyoncé, Solange, and Kelly, which we will see in later chapters. He was definitely a provider in the way of like, you're not finna sit up here and fuck with my women. Like, my wife, not finna fuck with her. My daughters, not finna fuck with them. But like me, I'm still finna go fuck something. You get what I'm saying? Like, he one of them. Much like, and it's, I don't know. We'll get to that. We'll get to that later. So also at this point in time, right around the time that she's pregnant with Beyonce and she's getting ready to give birth, her mother has already passed away before she found out she was pregnant with Beyonce. During the time she's pregnant, her father is diagnosed with cancer, which is really hard. And if you read the chapters, that's another thing she talks about with Matthew. He never gave her a hard time about leaving and taking care of her parents, because you have to remember, when her parents are declining, when her parents are sick, she is in the first few years of her marriage. She's 26, 27, 28. And we know how men are in general, like it's about me. And so that's something else she also kind of touches on, not in this, in like the chapters I already touched on that, where she's just like, he was always so understanding and always so supportive of her being supportive of her family. And by default, he supported her supporting her family. So whatever she needed, he provided, and she would go and do her thing, which again, that's what makes this relationship complex, and makes relationships in general, as you get grown, you'll realize, are very complex. But you should always leave if your man can't keep his dick in his pants, please. I'm begging you to do that. Her dad, now, if you know, she talks about her dad was not an affectionate man. And I can say, as someone whose daddy is also very stoic, not much of a hugger, I know what that experience is like, to have a dad who doesn't show like a bunch of touchy-feely emotion, right? But they show emotion in different ways. That's just not their shit. And she talks about, like, in the beginning chapters of the book, how when she was a little girl, she used to love to try and give her dad kisses, and he would always be like, that's enough. Because she had an old ass daddy too, right? And so, right before he passes away, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. She tells her dad, now, we all know that all of their last names is Beyonce. She's Celestine Beyonce. And they all have different, her and her siblings all have different spellings of the name Beyonce. There's like Angie, Larry's last name is Beyonce with an I. And then there's a Beyonce, the Butch and Skip, I think there's a Beyonce with an O. And then hers is Beyonce. No, hers, you know what I'm saying? It's an I, an A, and an O. She's O, they're Beyonce, Beyonce. You know what I'm saying? And the reason for that, if you don't know what that is, we touched on in early chapters. In Galveston, in Texas, at the point in which they were born, Miss Tina's the youngest, and she was born in 1954, so her siblings were all born before her. When her mother attempted to correct the spelling, the white nurses told her she should be happy they are even getting birth certificates. So they did not want to push the limit, so they just allowed Beyonce to be spelled however they spelled it. And her mom kind of made it a thing of like, and that's what makes y'all unique. You know, you guys have your own version of the last name. But when you think about it, it's like, wow, white people really didn't even respect us enough to spell our names correctly. And then when we corrected them, told us to shut the fuck up. You should be happy you're even getting this. So that kind of, when she talks about her mother and how worried and fearful of everything she always was, you have to also consider the space and time that her mom comes from. And you're going to see that in contrast to Matthew's mom, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But I like how, again, relationships are so complex, and I like how Miss Tina does the thing that we all do. Says, hey, my mom did this and I didn't really like it, but I understand where my mom was coming from. I understand the space and time in which she existed. I understand how her experiences shaped her. Like, she's really good in this book at holding space for people to be multifaceted and not just one-dimensional. Like, we're all moving and operating based off our past experiences. And so when she tells her dad, hey, I'm a girl, this name, the Beyonce with the O gonna die with me, I'm gonna name my daughter Beyonce, he kind of has this thing where he's like, that's the last name. And she's like, well, they not gonna know it's a last name. And he's kind of like, she's like, I can tell that touched him, like he was very proud of that. And I think about that when if you want to get woo-woo and you talk about putting shit up in the air, you know, you wanted people to know your name forever, and you named your daughter Beyonce, and now your daughter's fucking Beyonce. They will know your name forever. So intention is everything, and I feel like with anything that we do, just make sure you go into it with the proper intention. It will always go the way that you want it to go. We also learn that Obviously, Matthew is a big wig at Xerox. He's a salesman. And as the chapters go on, he's going to progress and he's going to move up, and they're going to be a comfortable upper middle class family. They're moving around with the movers and shakers in Houston, and they're moving around Third Ward. And I just want to say, as someone who lives in Houston, goes to Wheeler, be in Third Ward very heavy, reading this book, it's like, oh my gosh, shit has not changed. Shit has not changed. By Burn, holding hands, little, I don't even know what I wrote down here. It says, feels real grief. Oh, what was this? You know how sometimes you can't read your handwriting? Feels real first you wanted to. Oh, okay. Okay, so this chapter, okay, sorry, I can read my handwriting now, sorry. So, by the end of this chapter, Beyoncé is born, and we're going to hear a lot about her brother, Larry. Larry was her mama's favorite son. If you were reading in the regular chapters, her mama couldn't die until Larry came, and Larry's very erratic. She lets us know Larry just be doing stuff. Larry honestly sound low-key like my brother, you just be doing stuff, you all over the place, right? But when he came to the hospital, again, you got to remember, her mother died shortly, like maybe weeks before she found out she was pregnant with Beyoncé. So when she gave birth to Beyoncé, they said Beyoncé was holding her hand. It sounds like in like a blood sign, like however she held her hand is how the mama used to hold her hands. Like when Beyoncé was born fresh, she's holding her hands like this. And Larry is the one who said that's mama, like that's her. And she talks about how much Beyoncé looks like her mom and reminds her of her mom. So I'm like, we keep the ancestors with us and on us at all times. And she talks about how she didn't feel real grief until after Beyoncé was born, because again, she didn't really have time to process her mother's death. She soon found out she was going to be a mom herself. So she was kind of just going through the motions. She was also still taking care of her father. And it wasn't until her boobs were like engorged, like she's breastfeeding, Beyoncé was really fussy. She was all over the place. And she, like without thinking, picks up the phone to call her mom and is quickly reminded that her mother is no longer with her. And she said that's the first time that she really like felt grief. And I feel like that's when we talk about grief is not linear. At that point, her mom had been gone about a year because Beyonce's already born, right? And she hadn't really worked through those feelings before that point. And she just kind of hit her like, my mom's not going to meet my kids. I'm never going to be able to call her and ask her what to do. And, she said she sat and she was sitting there with this baby, like, I have a newborn, but she's like fucking going through it. And she talks about how she was feeling the actual grief of her mother's death while also going through postpartum, which we know even at this time, she says it, she's like, at this point motherfuckers didn't really know what postpartum was and all this shit, but like I definitely was feeling that while also grieving my mom. So she has sisters, like exactly, her sisters Selena, her sisters Flo, they were always in the background. You can definitely tell, and I think we see it with the way that Beyoncé and her family moves. Tina comes from a tight-knit family. And so family is always first and foremost with her. That's what she was taught. And we see that in Beyoncé. So that's how that chapter ends. We're now on chapter 16, which is called Jazz Baby. This takes place in November of 1981. So you got to think Beyoncé is about 1 or 2 months old. And she talks about how she could not get, like, her parents used to sing her specific, like, actual lullabies. And with Beyonce, she didn't fuck with them damn lullabies. She said, fuck that shit. But the only thing that would calm Beyonce down was listening to Gil Scott-Heron. Who, if you know, Gil Scott-Heron is a legendary, like, rapper, jazz artist, very big during the civil rights movement, used his music as a medium to contribute to that. And so Beyonce loved listening to Gil Scott-Heron, which I think makes a lot of sense of her being musically inclined. The taste jumped out at even 5 weeks old. My God, this lady, this woman, like, we see her father's health continue to decline, and she talks about how his Creole accent became thicker with age. Now, my grandmother from Louisiana, I can definitely say, girl, that shit is true. It's like they be talking, be like, girl, what the fuck is she talking about, blood? What the fuck is you talking? I didn't know. I could barely understand you in 2005. What is you talking about, girl? So the thing is, her father's accent was so thick, and if you know anything about Creole folks, especially Creole folks of this age, because if you remember, Miss Tina born in 1954, her parents had her in their mid-40s, so they were born in the very early 1900s, as in these people not only have thick Creole accents, but they speak Creole. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes when you are speaking that, it can sound like you don't know English, which is what one of the white nurses assumed about her father. And they basically said in front of him that he did not have long to live, that he was going to die, which is absolutely unacceptable. And unfortunately, her father did understand them. And because she had this newborn baby, because she had been doing this for years at this point, she used to go to Galveston every weekend and then drive, because, you know, it's about a 45-minute drive. So she would go on the weekends to check in with her dad, go back home to Houston, whatever. So her dad basically, and he didn't say it outright, because, you know, dads who are very stoic and not affectionate can't just say, please stay with me, I'm scared. So he didn't say it like that, but he basically was kind of alluding to please stay with me. And she didn't. She says when she got back to Houston, she was like, damn, I could have stayed with my dad. I'm not even doing nothing. And he ended up dying before her weekly trip back to Galveston. Her sister called and told her. And she said, you know, I should have known that he was on his way out, because, again, like I just said earlier, her dad, whenever she was a little girl and she would be kissing on him, he would always be like, like an old man. And for the first time, her dad let her like be affectionate and did not push her away, didn't tell her to stop. And she was like, hindsight 2020, he let me kiss and hug him. He never did that. And so she definitely talks about the point of this chapter more so was, when your parents and people you love need them, don't be so caught up in what you're doing that you're not kind of paying attention. You know what I'm saying? That the point of this chapter was she wishes that she had stayed with her dad, because she knew he didn't have a long time. And she just kind of was like going through the motions with it. And so she just kind of like, be aware, you know, just when your parents are talking to you, talk to them back. So now we're on to chapter 17. It goes by fast, and she jumps all the way. Now, mind you, her daddy died in November of 1981. This next chapter, it goes by fast, takes place in August of 1984. So Beyoncé at this point is about 3 years old. Now they're living in a home, I think, was it on Rosedale in Houston? And basically it catches on fire. And she had been doing hair. Okay, I said this in the earlier chapters. When she got married to Matthew, and she had to take care of her parents, right? Matthew told, and especially after she got pregnant, Matthew had told her, hey, I see what you're doing. You're doing a lot. Please do not feel like you have to work. You're taking care of your parents. You're pregnant. It really doesn't make sense for you to go to work every day, because that's going to be too fucking much. I got us. You know, and again, another example of him being supportive. She talked about how even after he did that, he never made her feel like, you're just my wife at home, like I run this shit. Like he always made her, you know, feel like they were partners, but he allowed that space for her to be able to take care of her family. So keep in mind, she's still not working at this point. She's a stay-at-home mom with Beyoncé. And she has been doing hair with Johnny for years out of her house. If you remember, when she's in Galveston, she does the drag queen's hair. Johnny makes the drag queen's dresses in Galveston. He's big on the gay scene out there. And when she's in Houston, she does her homegirl's hair. And she realized once this house catches on fire, right? Again, remember, Matthew's cheating this whole time. Matthew was fucking this whole time, right? Let's not forget that part. It kind of set in for her. They didn't have to wait long. Like they had money, long story short. They had money. Her house went up in smokes, but it wasn't an issue. Uncle Johnny is her sister, her oldest sister, Selena. Uncle Johnny is Selena's son. So I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments as well. So Johnny is her nephew, but they are like a couple years apart. They're like Johnny's 4 years older than her, I believe. She realizes that money is what saved them in this situation. If they did not have money, they would have been SOL with their house catching on fire. And then she realizes that Matthew has all the money. And she has this moment of like, I can't really even leave this man if I want to, because I got this baby. and I'm accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and I don't know what I'm gonna do if like I just get to the point where I don't want to get cheated on anymore. But she's getting to that point. She's getting to that point where she's tired of him not being faithful in the relationship. So what she decides to do, she's 31, Beyonce's 4, and she makes the choice to go back to beauty school. And she's like, you know what? I need to come up with a backup plan if this ever implodes, because this motherfucker can't keep his dick in his pants, and I just don't know. I'm not the one making money in the family. She tells the iconic, if you're Hive, a lot of these stories, if you're Hive, you've heard them before. But there's so much more context she puts in it. So the story about Beyonce, her going to the school and Beyonce pushing the swing and it's no one in the swing, that actually happened at Wheeler Avenue Preschool. Now, I've said, if you follow me, I go to Wheeler Avenue Church in 3rd Ward. So that preschool is still there. And I was just like, this the goddamn swing Beyonce was pushing? Well, damn! I passed all the time. What is called Beyonce? I was here. Like, girl, okay, let me stop. So anyway, Beyonce is really quiet. She's really, really quiet. So that's part of the reason that she doesn't make friends at school. That's going to come up later, because why did one of Beyonce's teachers think she was slow? Because that bitch was not at school talking. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. Anyway, Beyonce is quiet. She's not making friends at school. And Tina's trying to help her. She doesn't know what to really do. She's like, this child's so introspective. Like, she's talks at the house, but then she gets out on the streets and she pushing a swing like a weirdo. Like, what the hell am I going to do with this baby? So this is all parallel going on to her going to beauty school. People are telling her she needs to open a salon. And in the midst of this, her and Matthew go to Egypt, because now it's like, well, maybe we should have another baby. She thinks that, like a lot of women do, unfortunately, she thinks that having another baby is going to fix this relationship. Having another baby never fixes their relationship, y'all. Just so you know. It literally never does it. I have quite literally never heard, everyone who has ever thought that, I have never heard a success story. And I'm not even being fictitious. I've never heard anyone say, oh my God, we had this baby and it fixed the relationship. Even though that's what everyone thinks, it never, like that's never the end result. But nonetheless, they go to Egypt because they're trying to do the getaway. They're trying to get back. And she talks about Matthew's erratic behavior. He was very much he would fuck up. And then she'd be like, fuck you, right? And he'd be like, no, I want my family. I love you so much. And he'd be good for a few months and he'd go back doing the same exact thing. So she was stuck in this cycle, and now you got these babies involved. And so during this point, now they've decided, let's have another baby. We're going to go to Egypt. And she tells Johnny she going to get pregnant in the motherfucking Egypt. She just knew she was going to get pregnant in Egypt. And she did. She definitely did. But when they got back from Egypt, and as the pregnancy progresses, Matthew keeps doing what Matthew was doing. And so she kind of has this wake up situation where instead of like going into it, getting pregnant, she felt like this baby's going to fix our relationship. During her pregnancy is when she really made the decision that she was going to leave him. She was like, I have to leave him for this baby. Now, she doesn't end up leaving Matthew for another 2 decades. We all know that. But at this point, this is what's going to inspire her to start her business, because she's like, okay, I've gone to beauty school. I need to open up this salon, and I have this baby, and this was my motivation. She says that her parents stayed together through everything, and if you think about it, her dad raised her older siblings who are not biologically his. And this is something that you see a lot with children of people who stay together. When they are in relationships that do not go well, they don't want to leave because they've been in a situation where their parents have stayed. And it's a little bit of a pride thing And it's a little bit of like you work through everything. And just the same way when people are coming from, broken homes and people single parents, you're more inclined to leave if shit is not going right. Like this, it's always nature versus nurture and what we've seen growing up. But the one thing I can say, regardless of what you've seen, just know that some stuff is not worth dealing with. Infidelity is one of those things where if it's not an arrangement that y'all have come to, I don't think that you should stay with people who are not going to be faithful to you, And correct, Keezy. Solange's conception jump-started Miss Tina's independence because from this point on, see, Beyoncé, she was in full-on mommy mode. You get what I'm saying? Beyoncé was very like, oh my God, it's Beyoncé, it's Beyoncé, it's Beyoncé. Whereas by the time she gets pregnant with Solange, she's like, yeah. And we see her inching further and further away. Again, it took her another 2 decades to leave Matthew, but from Solange's conception, she starts to inch away. So now we are in chapter 18. This chapter is called Order My Steps. We are in March of 1986. So, hold on. Did I skip over something? Okay. So, she has this idea for this salon. Now, again, you have to remember, Matthew is a bigwig. They are moving with the movers and shakers in Houston. They are Black professionals, the Black upper middle class. Let's not. I'm not gonna fake the funk. Beyonce, I don't think, and Beyonce and them have never faked the funk. She was raised upper middle class, especially at this point. So she talks about how a lot of the women she knew were like lawyers and doctors and financial planners, specifically her friend Cheryl, Cheryl comes up all throughout the book. You can tell this is one of Miss Tina's good Judies. Cheryl was a financial planner. And the biggest complaint that if you're a Black woman and you go to our beauty salons, what is our big complaint? You got to go in there and sit all goddamn day and listen to bitches gossip. And it's like, I have a job and a family and I just don't have time to do this. I remember when I first cut my hair and was having to have the short pixie cut, I needed to go because, especially if you have fucking 2 inches of hair, you gotta go get it done. But it's like, God damn, I don't have fucking 5, 6, 7 hours just sitting here all goddamn day. So her whole thing with her beauty salon was she valued the time of Black women. You were going to be in, you were going to be out. It was no gossiping allowed in her salon. It was a elevated experience. And she didn't want to just target upper middle class Black people. That was her clientele because of the price point, because like she said, we value their time and we value our time. So you're going to pay for our time and we're going to value your time. But it was for basically just the working Black woman. You're going to get in and get out within an hour. We're not going to lollygag and pussyfoot around. We're going to get in here and do your hair. And if we had a Black salon like Miss Tina, obviously Headliners is no longer in existence. But if Miss Tina, if you want to bring Headliners back, girl, please. We need Headliners because goddamn, I cannot. Salon suite culture is ruining everything. But, whatever. Okay, so now, this is where Miss Tina gets in her sprinkle bag. She knows that she's doing the salon because she wants to leave Matthew. She has, like she said, her mama always said, even though Matthew gave her an allowance, she said, what you always do, you always put a little bit to the side for yourself. You don't just go spend all that money. And this is free game. If that man is giving you money, you go ahead and if that man gives you $600-700, you go ahead and put $200 to the side. Okay, don't fuck off the whole $600-700. Matter of fact, go ahead and put $300 to the side. And every time he does that, you go ahead and put $300 to the side. You know what I'm saying? You put a little something to the side. So she says she had enough to start the business on her own, but she wanted to use Matthew's money. Which, I know that's right, bitch. You better work. She wanted to use Matthew's money, and she did. She asked him for an investment. And again, what does Matthew do? He always believes in Miss Tina. He always believes in Beyonce. He always believes in Solange. He always believes in Kelly and their vision. He's always, one thing about Matthew Knowles, he be standing behind his girls 10 toes down every time. He not only believed in her business, he went full throttle in kind of helping her plan the business. And that's the other piece. So Headliners opens in Montrose, which is an area here in Houston, which I don't think it's, by coincidence, that Montrose is the gay area in Houston. It's where all the gay clubs are at. And if you know about her history with her Uncle Johnny, that also makes sense. And so now you have to remember this whole time she's pregnant with Solange, they thought they were having a boy. Like Miss Tina thought she was having a boy. They were going to name him Matthew Niles Knowles Jr. because he was conceived on the Nile. Okay, that's how confident they were that Matthew was a boy. But Cheryl, our good Judy from before, she said, well, just take this, what if it's a girl? And she starts thinking about it, and she gives her this little French baby book, like just fuck off baby book that Cheryl has. She just is like, just in case it's a girl, just pick a name because you don't know for sure. And she does, and she picks the name Solange. Now, what we know now, this part, if it's in the book, I haven't got there, but I did see this in the in her interviews and stuff during her press tour, that she did an ancestry thing, and she has, I haven't showed you the pictures of all her ancestors, but she has pictures of her great-great-grandmother. And it's so funny. The one great-grandmother that it kind of stops at. Hold on, let me see. She's got a lot of pictures in here, y'all, just so you know. So, this is the oldest one that she has. This is her maternal great-grandmother, right? She finds out as of recent history that this woman's mother, her grandmother, and I think her mother, like, so 3 women before this woman, all 3 women had the middle name Solange. What the fuck? One thing about the ancestors, they will really order your steps. And she says, she did not know that. They found that out doing some ancestry shit. And she got Solange out of this baby book. Isn't that insane? Like, one thing about destiny, one thing about your bloodline, they will always find you. They will truly always do that shit. I think that's so spooky. She said when she called Beyoncé and Solange and told them that, they were like, what spooky dookie Creole bullshit you got going on, mama? That's what she said Solange said. I said, Solange is just like me for real. So, Miss Tina gives birth to Solange. She's like, oh, it's a girl. We're not on Quan Mills yet, y'all. We'll be on, I'm trying to finish, you know what? This is the thing. I haven't been on my job. I haven't been doing this. And I want to read Quan Mills books for book club. And I have to finish this. So we have to be serious for a second. Just let me get through the Matriarch. And then we can get to Quan Mills. I fucking promise. Because Pastors Eat Pussy 2 is first on the list. That or I fucked the chitlin monster. I don't know which one. I'm still deciding. So here go Matthew being Matthew a fucking gun. It's like he's so amazing. And then he just shows us he's bullshit. So this is back in the day when they didn't make you leave the hospital right after you give birth. So she talks about how she's in the hospital with Solange for like 3 or 4 days. And the day she's supposed to go home with Solange, Matthew leaves to go to a conference. He has to go to a conference in Atlanta. A conference in which she is so certain a woman was involved. She tries to convince him. She's just like, I just had a baby. You're going to fucking leave me for a whole weekend. And he's like, yeah. So when he did that, she said, actually, fuck this, I'm done. The salon is basically set to be open. We've got the location. We've got the things. We're getting the staff together. Like, I'm simply not dealing with this anymore. So she packs the house up. And when he gets back from the conference, they're gone. Beyonce and fucking 1-week-old Solange and Miss Tina are gone. Now, they're staying with her friend. And I kind of think... would we have Destiny's Child without Matthew Knowles? I don't know if we would, because what we are going to see in later chapters is it is really Matthew's faith in his wife and in his daughter's talent that is the driving force behind what would become Girls' Time, Destiny's Child, and Beyonce as we know her. If she had actually left Matthew at this point, at this juncture, I don't think we would have Beyonce as we know her. Would Beyonce have become a star? Probably. She was always incredibly talented. I just don't think that, like, having her dad right there on her shoulder the entire time, I don't know if it would have went, like, his business mind, thank you. Like, I don't know if it would have went like this. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So hold that thought. And the reason I'm saying maybe, I talked about this in a TikTok a couple days ago. I think that we need, how when we think about relationships are seasonal. Sometimes you're there for just a day or two and they're leaves, like Medea said. And some people are seasoned, they're branches, they break off. And some people are roots, they're there for a lifetime. I think that if we applied that thought to romantic relationships as well, we would be in such a better way, especially when it comes to marriage. I think that, because religion is always involved in marriage, people think they have to stay with people forever. But I don't know if we would have Beyonce as we know her if Matthew and Tina would have got divorced at this point. And I think that, this happened, God allowed this to happen the way it did, because when Tina goes to her friend's house, she has a 4-year-old. She has a 5-year-old, and she has this newborn baby. And this friend has a big dog, like a big fucking, I think they said a Rottweiler or German Shepherd, some fucking aggressive ass fucking big ass dog. And for the first couple weeks, they're just jiving. Like, she's scared of the dog. She's concerned. But she's really not fucking with Matthew. And so Matthew is calling every day. He's trying to get her back. And she's like, yeah, fuck you, nigga. Like, I'm not dealing with this. This is bullshit. All the way up until her friend's dog attacks her. And it's not funny, but can you imagine you're literally trying to leave your husband and you have these babies, these very small children. It's a very aggressive dog, and then it like attacks you. And she was just like, she said in that moment, she was really upset. She said she was more mad that she had to give in, because she was like, what the fuck else am I gonna do? I've got to, she was not catching no breaks, because again, remember, Solange is all of 3 weeks old. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, that was the universe, that was God saying, hey, sorry, so I know you're trying to leave him, and I know you're serious this time, sweetie. I know you're so for real. Like, you are gone. You packed the house up. You've got the kids. But unfortunately, we can't let you do that. God said, unfortunately, you're going to have to thug this one out, babes. So she goes back, and her stipulation is that Matthew, and they have to do counseling. So Matthew comes, picks them up. They're doing counseling. And in addition to that, unfortunately, we're extending your stay. You have to go home. Like, can you imagine you're trying to leave your husband and you really think it's going to happen, and your friends who you're staying with, the dog fucking attacks you, and it's like you have to take it serious because this is an aggressive dog. You have a 5-year-old and a 3-week-old baby. You have to get the fuck out of there. Like, you have to go home. Like, she was in a 360 deal. That's why it's like, when you're understanding, people like, why did Miss Tina stay with him so long? I'm like, if you read the book, it was giving a little bit of God in there. It was giving a little bit of God said, you need to stay put for a little second, lady. Like, so they go to counseling. And in addition to that, so this is where, did I already talk about Parkwood, the house? Oh, okay, cool. So what ends up happening is, not only do they go to counseling, parallel happening to this, because one thing with your life still, she braided my hair so damn tight, my braids might be fresh for another 3 weeks, girl, I don't know. The thing about life, so many things are happening at one time, right? So in addition to that, Miss Tina's niece, so her oldest sister, Selena's, this is Johnny's sister. Johnny's youngest sister, Denise, comes to live with them. She has a daughter who is a few months older than Beyonce, named Ebony, who they call Ebby. Now, Denise had Ebony very young. I think she said she was around 17. And this is a good deal, because while her and Matthew are working on the marriage, we know that Beyonce is very quiet and she's not outgoing and she doesn't have friends at school. Ebony, of course, is the complete opposite. And by them being like cousins, sisters, they're built-in friends. And so she sends them both to the same school, and it allows Beyonce to somewhat come up out of her shell. Now, since Denise is a young mom, Ebony is more independent than Beyonce is. She tells a story about how they were eating, and Ebony and Denise had this little step stool in the kitchen for Ebony. And so, they ate the food, and Ebony went and scraped her food off in the trash, and then goes and steps up against the step stool and steps up on the step stool and rinses the plate off and wipes it off and puts it in the dishwasher. Mind you, she's like 6 years old. And she's looking at, like, Miss Tina's looking at Ebony work, because she's looking at Beyonce, and she says she in her head thought, this girl don't do a goddamn thing. What the fuck? So Ebony being there makes Beyonce want to be more independent, because she's like, all I want to do with the big girls is doing, like, let me fall in line. So you have to remember, Solange is still a baby, so this is where we enter Lou Helen. Miss Lou Helen Knowles, who is Matthew Knowles' mother. She keeps Solange for a month because Miss Tina is trying to get headliners open. Now, the thing that we know is that even though Miss Tina has decided to try and make this shit work with Matthew, she's like, yeah, but you know what I'm never going to do again? Not have my own money. She's very clear on that. She wants to make something shake for herself. And so she describes Miss Lou Helen, Matthew's mom, she respected her so much. And if you remember, because Matthew's from Alabama, and she was kind of the opposite of her mom, even though they kind of had the same experience. Whereas Miss Agnes was very much broken down and scared of white people. She never wanted to shake the table. She didn't want her kids in trouble. She didn't even want her kids around white people because she was just so afraid of what they were going to do. You have Matthew being raised by Miss Lou Helen, who is like, fuck, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're very much strong black women. And so she always says, she said how she respects her, and she gives an example of I think she was like a social worker or something, and a young white girl called and she said, Helen, da 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 da, and Miss Helen's like, excuse me, she said, my name is Miss Knowles, so I'm going to hang up and you're going to call me back and you're going to address me properly. And she hangs up, and she does this. And I guess this is happening while she's dropping Solange off for her to keep her for a month. And so the woman, she hung up and she really called her back. And Miss Tina tells her, you're my hero. And I think if you remember from the earlier chapters about how fearful her own mother was of white people, to the point where she did not stand up for her children because she was more so scared and just shaped by her own experiences. Seeing on the flip a black woman who did not mind standing up to white people, that very much was, you know, that was kind of her gist and what she was getting at. So I think seeing that, and then you can see that's the woman who raised Matthew, and that's how you can see how Matthew was coming from a place of like, yeah, we're gonna get this shit done, baby. So when we're again another layer to their complex relationship and why they're working, Matthew was so many things that Tina wanted in her own family and for herself. And so when we just talk about how they ended up staying together for so long, that's why I think. So Chapter 19 is called Headliners. This is the name of the salon that she ends up opening. And are you doing the whole book or stopping at certain chapters? I'm doing the whole book. If you go on my YouTube channel, I like this video I'm recording on my camera right now will be up. So if you want to see the earlier chapters, right now we're on chapter 19. I'm going to do the whole book. And I have a playlist created for book club. So Chapter 19 Headliners takes place in October of 1986. And so these prices, bitch, when she starts talking about these motherfucking prices, and keep in mind, Headliners is supposed to be the expensive place where you can go to get your shit done in under an hour. Black women. And so the way that she wants to get this shit going, she offers a wash and a blow dry for $9.95. And the reason this was crazy at the time was because this was a $35 value. Usually a high-end wash and blow dry for black women was around $35. Miss Tina was charging bitches all of 10 American dollars. Let's ruminate on that. A wash and a blow dry for 10 fucking American dollars. I wish. Mind you, keep in mind, she's using high-end products. Like, that was the other piece. It's not like they're using Osseous in your hair. They're using the good shit, okay? And it pays off. She talks about how Matthew was against it because, again, his business brain, he said, what the fuck are you doing? But she was like, no, we're gonna lose a little bit of money in the beginning, but they're gonna come in and they're gonna get the experience. They're gonna get up out of here and they're gonna want to come back and pay us $35. And she was right about that. Matthew ended up paying for all the marketing. She had a computer, she had all the things. Again, Matthew doing Matthew, his business mind, you know, he's good for some things. He is. And one thing Miss Tina talks about is how in beauty school, she learned about all these high-end products that you can use. But she also married that with the old school, you need to put her, and her mama is so mean. You need to put some grease in your hair. Let me tell you something. Let me because this is Miss Tina Mama Agnes, but this is also Mega speaking. Can y'all hear that? I'm at a hotel right now. What is going on? Y'all heard that? Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I wasn't tripping. I was like, okay. Well, everyone on the book club done seen. I'm good. Oh, okay. Child, okay. Well, we're gonna get back to goddamn book club, okay? All right. So anyway, Miss Tina talks about how one thing her mama was good for is telling you need to put some grease in your hair, it looks dry. And so her mom would do all this, like, you know, the old school remedies, the olive oil, you mix a little egg, a little mayonnaise, a little stew, and so she was known for her concoctions, basically. So she would use the old school ways and the old school shit that the elders have always done, but she would mix it with these high-end products. And see, I really feel like, as a community, I'm going to assume that a lot of people in this chat are Black. I won't assume everybody, but I'll assume a lot. I feel like when we got away from putting grease in our hair, that was the beginning of our downfall. Like, that is something that I'm always going to do. I'm good for some blue magic. I don't give a fuck what nobody says. Bitch, I'm putting blue magic in my hair. I'm putting grease in my hair. It clogs your hair. It clogs your scalp. I don't know, bitch. I feel like we trying to recreate the wheel. I don't know. Why we trying to, but that's a side rant, and I'm really trying to get through. We got like three more chapters. We at 46 minutes, child. I was trying to keep this shit up on an hour. It might be a little bit longer. I'm so sorry, y'all. Okay, so she was mixing and she was helping the girls grow their hair and getting them out of there fast. She used the high-end products, and then they were known for their gourmet coffee, which all she said, you gotta remember, this is 1986, before they got all the different coffee creamer flavors. She said, yeah, it was just regular coffee with a scoop of Bluebell ice cream. And I said, that is genius, because I even think that it, like, nowadays that would hit. I'm gonna go home and try that, because y'all know I drink coffee every morning. I like me a little salted caramel. I'm gonna definitely go try that ice cream hack though, for shit show. Okay. And the other thing I love about Miss Tina, she's really a girl's girl. She really is. One thing she says, she liked to get her stylist straight out of beauty school, because then you can kind of mold and they haven't developed any bad habits. But also, she called like graduates of headliners. So she had a lot of girls who would come and work for her and who ended up opening their own salons all around Houston. And that was something that she encouraged the girls to do who worked for her, the women. Like, you don't have to stay here forever. Like, please go out on your own, start something for yourself, be your own boss. It's just like, when you think about Beyoncé and I guess how thorough she is, and then you're reading Miss Tina's, how she ran her business, it's like, well, yeah. This part was really, really, for me, it resonated, because they talk about how they've always wanted to live in Third Ward, which Third Ward is a historical Black neighborhood. Wheeler Avenue, the church, which is the preschool that Beyonce went to, is a big part of that. And there, even though Third Ward is the hood, now it's a hood, it's a Black neighborhood, there is like a area in Third Ward that is beautiful homes, like mansion, like probably at this point in time, multi-million-dollar homes. But and at this point in time, and probably still mostly now, it's getting a little gentrified, I won't lie, but mostly Black people lived in them. And even still, it's a lot of Black people still in Third Ward, for shit show. There, and the main street is McGregor. Now, what had me crying is she talks about all the additional streets, but in my head, I call all them streets McGregor. like when I think of the big houses in Third Ward, all of that I just be like, oh, McGregor, you live in one of the McGregor houses? Yeah. And I've said in TikToks before, like, my goal is to get over there, only because I'm my homegirl Ashley, my business partner, lives in Third Ward. She's from Third Ward. So and she did the thing. What I love about Ashley, she bought 2 houses. She bought 2 of the lots on the block that she grew up on, knocked them down, and then built a big house. Because, we have this idea that when we make it, we got to move out of our hoods. And she was always like, no, this is my area. I'm from here. I love this area. I'm not leaving. I'm just simply going to have my happy ending in my neighborhood. And I was just like, really, Ashley inspires me in a lot of ways, but after I saw that, and her home is beautiful, that was like, I want to do that. I want to, still live in the Black area. I want to stay in the neighborhood. And so for me, hearing that was their dream to live in one of the McGregor houses, I was like, oh my God, that's what I want. I want to live in one of the McGregor houses too. Twin. So anyway, like I said, McGregor is the main house, but they ended up starting business. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. So now that we know that, they're going to end up moving to a house on the street Parkwood, which, if you know anything about Beyoncé, her label is called Parkwood. It's named after the street in Third Ward that their house was on. And so she actually ends this chapter talking about how she was able to reconnect with her niece, Angie Beyoncé. Now, if you are Hive, you know who Angie is. Angie is one of her daughters, but it's really her niece. It's Larry's daughter. And Larry is the one who I compared to Darrington, who when the mama was dying, everyone was looking for Larry, like, please come to the hospital. We're looking for you. And he's very erratic. And so, erratic, just like he all over the place. He a mess child. Larry is a damn mess. But Larry's not a bad person. He's just a mess child. So he basically put his wife through the ringer, and when they got divorced, his wife didn't want to even fool with Larry's family. That's how bad Larry did her. He didn't want to fool with nothing for a few years. So she didn't get to see Angie, and they used to have to drop the prison salt for the first 3 or 4 years of her life or something like that. And then once they reconnected, Angie had started coming to stay the summers with them. And so once Angie, and she ends the chapter being like, once we got Angie back, girl, we never let her go. So I sounded that's right, Miss Tina. So chapter 20, we're in December of 1986, and it's called Parkwood. Like I said, they ended up in one of the McGregor houses, but they're on the street Parkwood. Again, if you know Beyoncé, where that comes from, this is Parkwood lore. So the house that they move into, it's obviously a big, nice house, and it works because there's an apartment in the back of the house, like kind of like a pool house apartment type shit. And Denise and Ebby are living with them at this point. So Denise and Ebby move into the apartment in the back. And she talks about how this was such a good move for them because it allowed her to let Denise be young. Remember, Denise had Ebby at 17, I believe. So her and Beyoncé are like 5 and 6. So she's about 23. She says she spent a lot of time kind of mothering Ebony and let Denise be young, which that reads to me as you was letting that girl go outside. You live in Third Ward. If you know anything about the historic Third Ward, the clubs have always been over there. There's always been something to do in Third Ward. So it's giving. Denise knew her child was safe and she was going out there throwing little ass. But that is what one does at age 23, and if your auntie's okay with you doing like that, that just is a sign of having a good and a very supportive family and a system to hold you up. And it's really cool that Miss Tina is able to be that person for so many people, because you're gonna see more examples of that. So one day, again, Ebby is very outgoing at school and Beyoncé is not. She's extremely quiet. One day, the teacher pulls her and Ebony aside and makes them eat solo, makes them eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Now, I don't know what that really signified, but Beyoncé did not want Ebony to tell her mama because she knew her mama liked my mama. She'd have came to the motherfucking school. The fuck, what you pulling? What the fuck you going? What the fuck going on? Come to find out, why did this teacher think Beyoncé was intellectually challenged, disabled? Because she was not talking in class. So she thought she was mute. She thought she was so behind. And the thing is, when Miss Tina goes up there to talk to them about it, it's kind of like the teacher has given up on Beyoncé. And it's been a few months for school. So she was like, if you have concerns, why didn't you tell me about that? Like, why are you waiting till we're 3, 4, 5 months into the school year to tell me that, my child is behind and she's not picking shit up? Which, that is an issue with the teachers, and why we need to be advocates for the children. I can tell you, as someone who had a child with me, if you do not go up there, them teachers be overwhelmed. This is not to say that the teachers don't be good teachers, because my mom was a teacher and I know that the teachers are doing their job. But you have to be a parent and advocate for your child. You also have to be a parent and make them do shit outside of school, which we're going to see Miss Tina do. Because the thing is, the teacher is supposed to make them read at school, yes, but you're supposed to make them go home and read some books. Remember when y'all was on TikTok arguing about that? Telling you they just supposed to read at school and keep picking them. They're supposed to read some books at home in addition to school so they can retain it. Because you as an adult don't even learn like that. You got to learn it, and then you need to reinforce. Thank you. You need to reinforce it on some other shit. Y'all expect the 8-year-olds to pick some bullshit up. They need to be reading and not just going home and doing that damn iPad. Y'all gonna have me on here sounding like an auntie. Where you been, auntie? I've been all around the world, baby. And I don't mean that fictitiously. I mean, that's really where I've been, all around the world. So she gets her a tutor named Miss Little, right? Who is an old school. Now, mind you, in the 80s, in the 1986, Miss Tina refers to Miss Little as an old school teacher. Now, that means, she says Miss Little is an older woman. That means Miss Little was about in her 60s in 1986. She was born in the 20s. That means Miss Little started teaching in the 40s. You already know the type of teacher I'm talking about. The type of teachers who, when they started teaching and was teaching, they could spank you. She said Miss Little didn't play. She said even she was a little afraid of Miss Little. Okay. But within months, Beyoncé not only was doing well, Beyoncé was getting into advanced classes. Child, I've been talking so goddamn long. They saying, is you still here? Hold on. Let me do that. All right, there we go. Beyoncé was doing well. She actually became very, very good in math. And see, that is a testament to how you have to... She forgot to pay their lunch bill. She said in the book that she had paid the lunch bill or something. Anyway, back to Miss Little. That's a testament to how you have to keep up and advocate for your child. But even outside of advocating for your child, you have to provide something to reinforce what they are learning at school, because the teachers will be thinking your child's stupid. Your child just need a little bit more help, because not everyone learned everything super duper fast. We are on chapter 20. We're getting through chapter 20. So now we're going to get into Uncle Johnny and Peanut. Now, who is Peanut? Peanut is Uncle Johnny's man. Now, Uncle Johnny has always been the type of man who is with one man. He's a one fella guy, right? He's not, I don't want to slut shame anyone. I'm not saying, but that's just not who Johnny was. Johnny was just like, I'm with my fella. It's just me and my fella. And Peanut and Johnny, she said up to this point, Peanut and Johnny have been together a little minute, and this is in 1986. She doesn't specify when Peanut and Johnny get together, but it's definitely implied that they are very familiar at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume that they have been together a couple years. And the thing that you need to know about Peanut is that his family did not accept him. His family had completely shunned him. And what we know about Uncle Johnny is that Miss Tina's family has accepted Johnny since he was a child. Johnny has always been openly gay. He was openly gay at a time when it was not normal. It was not very common for you to be openly gay and for your family to be completely okay with it. But his family was. And something that Miss Tina often talks about is the fact that her sister Selena respected Johnny. So by default, everyone else did. And that is the other thing. It starts with your mama. It starts with your parents. You, again, advocating for your child. You can't talk to your child crazy, call your child names and all that type of bullshit, and then other people gonna do it. She said her sister always treated Johnny with respect, always let Johnny do what he's supposed to do, so everyone else fell in line. And that's what you're supposed to do as a mama. And shout out to Selena for doing that shit, because she was doing that shit before a lot of bitches got their brains and was doing that shit. So unfortunately, Peanut's family didn't fuck with him. Beyonce, my girl was just quiet. They was fucking with her. And she tells a story about a coat, but I put it in here because it's a good lesson. There were these girls at school who was always fucking playing around Beyonce and shit. And, so she ends this part to say, Peanut and Johnny are married in every way but paper, because as we know, it's 1986, gay marriage is not legal. But they live together, their money's wrapped up together, they do everything together. Peanut's caught around the family, they're basically married. Just know that. So this coat. Miss Tina got Beyonce a little fly-ass coat. The hating ass little heifers at school was hating on it and told her the coat was ugly. Beyonce said, I don't want to wear it no more, even though she originally really liked it. Miss Tina said, okay, well, since you don't like it, go ahead and try and give it to them little heifers who, are making fun of it. And Beyonce said, why would I do that? They don't want it. She said, I don't know. They'll probably do want it because they're hating on you. Beyonce said, they're not hating on me. She said, well, just try and give it to them since you don't want it no more. Beyonce gave the coat to the little heifers. What was they doing? Now they fighting over the coat because they actually like the coat. This is a life. Miss Tina's really good at this. You're going to see a lot of this. She does a lot of letting Beyonce and Solange and them learn lessons on their own, in terms of, so this is why when bitches get on the internet and say, bitch, you can't dress, it don't matter. I like it. You know what I'm saying? I like it. I got it on. You bitches not going to make me hate what the fuck I got going on. And so that's this lesson. So now we got beach days. Beach days or because in the first chapters, Miss Tina did not have a good experience in school. her mother and with the teachers. Her mom didn't really believe her when the teachers was fucking with her and shit. So she was very big on being connected with Beyoncé and Solange. And so what she would do, she would take them out of school every now and again, and they would drive to Galveston and spend it on the beach in Galveston. You know, Galveston's a beach town, 45 minutes outside of Houston. That's where Miss Tina's from. And Solange didn't like skipping school because you're going to see Solange is a very particular lady, as we all know, right? Of course, Beyonce loved beach days. Of course, Beyonce loved beach days. She don't be talking, she don't be saying nothing at school. It's the only time she talk around her family, so she loved beach day. And so, yeah. This chapter ends with Miss Tina seeing a sign up for a dance class. And she thinks, maybe I sign my daughter up for a dance class taught by this lady named Miss Darlette. Because I want to try and help break her out of her shell. I want to try and help her shyness. And if you know who Miss Darlette is, I'm going to wait because I'm about to tell you. But let's go to the next chapter. Because her signing Beyonce up for this dance class in an attempt to help her break out of her shell is going to be integral to the lore of who Beyoncé Giselle Knowles is. Chapter 21. Those Little Knowles Girls. That's what it's called. It takes place in January of 1989. So we are just chugging along here, okay? So one day, Miss Tina is late picking up Beyoncé from Miss Darlette's dance class. As a former dancer myself, if you honestly have to do any activity, do you know how embarrassing it is when your parent is late and you're the last one there? Very embarrassing, very stressful. The teacher want to talk because, the teacher want to go home too. It's been long, blah, 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 blah. So Miss Tina gets there and Miss Darlette says, Miss Tina, I have to talk to you now. Miss Tina goes quickly into, I'm sorry, I was late, the salon, blah, 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 blah. She's like, no, that's okay. That's not what I want to talk about. Since Beyonce was the last one at the class, she has Beyonce helping her clean up. She's sweeping. There's music playing. Beyonce is singing along. She looks at her and says she can really sing. Did you know that? Now, here is the thing that you need to know about Miss Tina. And if you read this book, you'll know in earlier chapters. Miss Tina comes from a musically inclined family. When Miss Tina's parents were younger, they had an act at a club called the Canteen, where they would sing together and perform. Miss Tina herself was in a group called the Veltones. Miss Tina can sing as well. So everyone in Miss Tina's family can sing. She talks about how as the girls were growing up, they would often harmonize. But Beyonce was not really singing hard when they were at home harmonizing. She was harmonizing with her family. So that if everyone's singing, you're not necessarily noticing that this little one can really blow. Because she had never really blown in front of her mama because they were always just singing together. She got the chance to blow when she was sweeping by herself and she didn't think anyone was listening. But Miss Darlette was listening, and thus the Beyonce that we know was really born in this moment. So Miss Darlette says she insists that, hey, I think you should enter her in this singing competition that's coming up. She actually insists that Beyonce should do it. Tina says, do you want to do it? Beyonce says yes. And she's actually shocked because she knows her daughter is so shy. So this is the first time that Beyonce is like, oh yeah, I'll do that. So you're seeing that this is something that is naturally coming to her because usually she don't even like fucking talking to people. Can you imagine as a parent? You don't even fucking talk at school. What you mean you want to get up on stage and sing? But she says, okay, let's go home and ask Daddy. That's what she says in the book. Let's go out home and ask Daddy and see what he thinks. And if so, we'll do it. So Miss Darlette signs her up. She sings Imagine by John Lennon. And Miss Tina describes as Beyonce goes on stage, she was very nervous. She said, I was prepared if she had, how kids get up there and all of a sudden they choke and they start crying. She said, I was prepared to go run up there and get my baby. That's what she says. I was prepared to go over there and get my baby because I know my baby. My baby do not like being around all these people. This is a lot for her. She don't even get down like this. Girl, Beyonce got up there and showed her ass. So, and Miss Tina talks about, it was crazy watching other people react to seeing Beyonce perform for the first time, because this was also their first time seeing the Beyonce of it all. Like, again, it's one thing to sing and in the car with your mama and them, but seeing her perform and have a stage presence and really blowing, they hadn't even seen her do that. So she talks about how her and Matthew were like squeezing each other's hands the entire time. Like, what the fuck? Can you imagine? And I have to say this, when Little Moms was living with me, God bless her, Little Moms is also a shy little girl. So I could definitely appreciate if she had pulled some shit like that and all of a sudden she gets up there and she could just blow. You don't even fucking act like that. Like, you don't even fucking act like that. What's going on? That's shocking. And she said the crowd gave her a standing ovation. And she ended up winning the competition. And she said Beyonce knew she was going to win the competition. She's like, oh, I'm going to win. So from here, Miss Darlette suggests entering Beyonce in a pageant. Now, these pageant pictures, you have seen these that picture on Bow Down. You know what I'm talking about? The Bow Down cover, Hive. Let me just say this. Being real Hive and reading this, like I said at the top, and reading this book and having so many like, oh my God, I know what you're talking about. Oh, this is the backstory of that? Oh my God. I'm like, please. I've been in y'all business for so long. Please just give me all the details of this. So the cover of Bow Down, this is what we're learning about. Miss Starlette wants to sign Beyonce up for a pageant last minute. The reason she wants to sign Beyonce up for a pageant because if she signs up for this toddlers and tiaras, she only has to do the full pageant one time, and then after that she can do the pageant circuit just performing the talents. But you only have to do the beauty part your first time. So at first Miss Tina's super duper against it. She's like, no ma'am, my girls are not, I don't want them to be all into pretty hurts. Pretty is as pretty does. For those of you who knows that from pretty hurts, pretty is as pretty does, that's a saying that Miss Agnes used to tell Miss Tina. So it's just so crazy how so much of the shit Beyonce does is stuff that comes from her family. Like, she's not just making this shit up, like stuff that they heard. Okay, anyway. So she enters the pageant. As we know, Johnny's a dressmaker. Johnny's a seamstress. Selena's a seamstress. Miss Tina's a seamstress. So it's Johnny, Selena, and Miss Tina who take her to this pageant. And they all are like, what the fuck? This is bullshit. They're more worried about, in Miss Tina's words, they're more worried about Solange and Beyonce being smart than pretty. And this is how much they didn't take it seriously. On the way there, Johnny is still sewing the dress. Selena is her older sister. Selena is Miss Tina's oldest sister, and she is also Uncle Johnny's mother. Selena and Johnny are still working on the outfit in the car on the way to the pageant. Miss Tina started making this dress the night before. That's how not serious they're taking this pageant. So when they get there, they're just kind of taken aback. And if you've ever been to if you watch Toddlers and Tiaras, I can only imagine in the 80s, if you haven't been exposed to like that John Benet Ramsey ass shit, you walk in, it's like, why are these little girls dressed up like fucking mini women? Like the way, they have the teeth things, they put them in full faces of makeup, the hair, and you gotta remember, this is 1989. Them little girls' hair was that big. And Beyonce came in there looking very much like a little girl. She says that. And she says that Beyonce's going to end up winning. And she says part of the reason she felt like Beyonce won because she was refreshing, right? She was refreshing because they were just used to seeing girls who were trying to act like women, whereas Beyonce didn't have, they were just doing this so she could be able to sing. So she was acting like a little girl. But I digress, so I'm getting ahead of myself. She talks about the little girl was doing some type of routine, and the mom, the stage mom, was like they were laughing at the mom. They weren't laughing at the little girl, but they got kicked out, her and Selena, because they were laughing. And because the mom was just doing the routine and very all over the place. And Miss Darlette actually comes out there and scolds her and Selena, and says, hey, this is not about you guys. Grow up. This is about Beyonce. We're just trying to get her to perform. I really think she's talented. I think you guys should take this serious. I said one thing about it. Darlette was not playing with them. Darlette said, babes, I don't know if you know what you have on your hands, but y'all cutting up. No, they were cutting up. That's Miss Tina describes how her and her sister was cutting up because they had never seen no shit like this. And again, I can imagine it too, because before the TV show Toddlers and Tiaras, I had never seen no shit like that either. You watch the show and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Can you imagine just pulling on me like, what the fuck is going on? So yeah. This is, now keep in mind, this is also Selena's, Auntie Selena. This is her first time seeing Beyonce perform. This is Uncle Johnny's first time seeing Beyonce perform. And she ends up singing Home from the Wiz, that we know It's made so famous by Stephanie Mills and Diana Ross. It's a very advanced song, and let's not forget, Beyonce is 8 years old. Beyonce fucking rips it. She rips everyone a fucking new one. She kills it. Selena and Johnny are looking at Tina, and Tina's like, fucking told you guys. And they're all, again, you have to remember, and Jasmine Sullivan, you also have to remember, Beyonce's incredibly quiet. So it's like, the child that doesn't talk just did that. This is crazy. This is crazy. You should watch the explanations to all of Self-Titled. Yes. 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 So yeah, what's crazy is Beyonce does this pageant. They're only doing it so that she can be able to perform. And what does she do? She wins the whole thing. Like, because you know how pageants have categories? So not only does she win the category in which she came to conquer, she wins walk, she wins smile, she wins outfit. And this is where Miss Tina is talking about, she feels like the judges were really refreshed that this was an actual little girl. Because Beyonce was acting like an 8-year-old and not like the pageant girl thing. And so from there, she's on the pageant circuit. And Miss Tina is very clear to say she never performed doing the beauty part again. From here, Solange ends up, getting involved in this as well. And they only start there. They're only there to sing. That's all they do. And blah, 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 blah. Okay. Last part of this chapter before I get up off of here, because I'm over an hour. So we'll have to do the rest of this shit tomorrow, child. Okay. So Solange and B are doing Miss, now that, Beyonce is established in Miss Darlette's dance class. Beyonce, obviously Solange being little sis, wants to go behind and wants to dance with the big girls, right? And so she has Solange in a baby class, but Solange is always watching Beyonce. So they're in this dance recital where I guess the routine was the baby girls dance first, and then they're supposed to bag back and let the big girls come in. Well, what Solange has been doing is she's been watching the big girls rehearse, and she's memorized it herself. And when she's supposed to bag back, she doesn't. She ends up staying in line, doing the routine with the big girls. And from there, Miss Darlette says, okay, well, I guess you got it. You can stay. And so now Solange is in the big girl class. And then being in third ward, Miss Tina finds another dance class where it's like a whole bunch of like, these are dancer girls. And she's like, oh, I'm signing y'all up for that. And she's like, ooh, this is going to be a little more challenging, which it was. But she said that Beyonce and Solange loved the challenge. They had such a good time, and they were able to take those moves back and apply them to Miss Darlette's dance class. So we'll end there. I guess we'll start chapter 22 on tomorrow. Oh my God, I can't believe I've been talking for like over an hour. But I think that maybe we'll do this like same time tomorrow, guys. Like 9-ish p.m. I'll probably make a video letting you guys know what the fuck's going on. Let me sign off from YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my channel. And if you are going to be watching live on TikTok, I'll try and get this. I'll make a video to let you know when I'm going to be on live. But don't forget, if you